course, out of 8 children, I was the only one who inherited the voice to sing. And many people say I sound very much like my father. Sound very much. But I feel I took on where maybe I should have taken on. Where my father left off, I completed his works with these new arrangements, and also to make sure that they'll be sung in many, many years to come. I said to my father, Papa, I'll never be a cantor. I don't want to compete with you. I don't have to compete with you. You fill the field to such capacity, you wouldn't even leave me over 1% of your knowledge and your cantorial music. And I said, and you yourself mentioned that I belong in the opera. And I said, then that's where I'm going to stay. I'm going to make an operatic career.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
After living on 94th Street, it was the last place that the family was together. My mother, my father, and myself, we went to Israel for doing concerts, as well as my father officiating in many synagogues throughout Israel. The Ansonia Hotel, or now it's called the Ansonia Condominium, still is probably one of the few buildings left in New York where you have musicians. A good many people in the Metropolitan Opera Company lives in this building, and there's a lot of teaching going on here in order to prepare these artists for their particular field, especially those who want to sing at the Met or the New York City Opera Company.
And it was on June the 19th, 1933, we were going swimming in the Dead Sea. In fact, he was the one who pulled us into the water. And when he came out, we were sitting around and talking, and he said to me, you know, if anything should happen to me at any time, you will rewrite all my works with the idea that you have in mind. And from that day on, I took 100% interest. I spent 53 years rewriting his works. I think I would like to be remembered maybe as a basso buffo in opera. I'd also like to be remembered being able to finish the work that my father wasn't able to complete because of kind of his early death. And I'm teaching singing, which I think, I think I've been very, very successful. Adhering to the Italian school and not just giving a lot of rhetoric. According to, there was a man who I studied with in England and in Italy who I met even after I graduated the Juilliard by the name of E. Herbert Caesari. Some call him Cesare but the word is spelled C-A-E, and that would be pronounced Kaya, but the Romans pronounced it Cesare. I think he was about the greatest authority on singing. He wrote 5 volumes on the book of singing. I think that there's almost no one who really adheres to his particular writing, excepting there are singers who are born with natural voices and can sing even without a teacher, and ask them how they can sing so correctly from a technical standpoint of view. They couldn't even answer you, but they did it. That's how they found out how to develop the voice. From, let's say, from Caccini to Bononcini, the old-time composers were also singers. And they were the one who developed the voice of this Italian school of singing called the Scuola Cantorum. But it took 300 years to develop this technique. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that most of the teachers adhere to that particular technique. As the voice, you have to read the Caesari books in order to understand. But the lower notes in any voice is beamed and directed towards what we call the heart palate. It's involuntary muscles. You can't take the throat out and show it. You can show a diagram, but you have to understand. You have to be able to demonstrate as a teacher. If you don't have the equipment with which to demonstrate, it doesn't make any difference if you sing in one key or the other key. How's the pupil going to understand? So, in the beginning, I would say that singing is a question of imitation. Now, as we ascend the scale, the vibrations are increased. And as they're increased, they go towards the back, the soft palate in the back. Now, that vowel is not that pure anymore. It's changed. For example, if I have an ah, and I go up the scale, I'll say, ah, mohore. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm out here. Oh, mohore. Oh, mohore. Now, oh, now I'm beginning to add on a dome sound. The sound is being beamed to the head. In other words, according to Lamperti, the ideal quality of the human voice is called the dark light tone. And what he means by dark light is it's not ah, it's not but it's oh. That's the dark light tone. Oh, I can do it now. When I go higher, the tone will close by itself. Oh, oh, oh. There's the closed vowel. Doesn't sound ah anymore. And many things happen, many factors take place in the idea of teaching the voice. To be able to do also, I want the singers to learn how to sing soft and loud. And I ask them to sing do, 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 do. Now that, they think that's falsetto. It's not. It's a soft tone, but it's still supported. And if I go do, 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 they come from soft, and then finally they'll start to sing oh in the same manner, still supporting the tone. The voice doesn't fall, it doesn't drop, and there cannot be what is called a woolly, windy sound. Ah. That's gone, because singing is based upon the release of compressed air. When I was 10 years old, Melba came to my father, because here they just the opposite. Instead of my father chasing the opera singers, they chased him. They were so curious to hear this fantastic voice with this tremendous range. So he attracted the attention of all the great opera singers during that time, of Caruso's time. And Madame Melba came in, and I was a kid about 10 years old, I think, or 11 years old. And my father went into the back. He got an office in the back on the second floor, because we occupied the whole building, a four-story building. Those days, you know, brownstone houses, you occupied the whole house. And he went to bring some memorabilia and some other things there, some criticism. And he hears us sing, and I'm standing with my mouth open. I said to her, Madam Melba, we have your records, but I'd like to hear you sing in person. And she started singing for me. My father was so amazed, he couldn't get over it. I try to play this trick on everyone. And one day, one of the officials at the Victor Company, and they had their quarters in Camden, New Jersey. That's where we recorded. I recorded also with my father, singing duets. And he presented my father to this white-haired wizard. And when my father met him, he gave him a blessing in Hebrew of people who were of a status of being a genius. So Edison took a graph, that's what they called it in those days, of my father's voice. And he informed him that it was the largest range that he had ever recorded of any singer. Toscanini heard me sing as the sacristan in Tosca at the New York City Opera Company, those days called New York City Opera. And he said to Samuel Shotzenough, I want that man, get him for me. The following day, I received a call from NBC. And I went up to Shotzenough. In those days, they had not just Toscanini, they had about 5, 6, 7 conductors, NBC Symphony. So talking with Shotzenoff, he says, do you know this and this role from Traviata? I said, of course. He said, well, you know, the maestro heard you sing. I said, fine, very nice. He said, we're going to do Traviata. After about 20 minutes, I said to him, what maestro are you talking about? Who? He says, why, Mr. Toscanini, he heard you sing, like you very much. And he said, all right, I want to know if you know this role. All right, you're engaged, you're going to do the Marchese. Now, the late Dr. Eric Werner, who was the head of the board of sacred music at the Hebrew Union College, where I graduated, never heard my father's recordings, surprisingly, one of the great musicologists, and he specialized, of course, in the history of Jewish and Hebrew music. Finally, he got to hear my father's recordings, And he said to me, now I realize why your father is so famous. He brought a form to cantorial music that no cantor singing or composing this type of music existed in that particular manner. But he brought it to such heights that it became recognized throughout the whole world. Every Jewish person, religious or none, as well as Gentiles, became fascinated with my father's music. Caruso had my father's recordings. The Roosevelts in the White House, when I was guest of the President of the United States, President Roosevelt, during World War II, they had my father's recordings. And those cantorial works are going to last for a long time because there's a leitmotif in his music. There's always a recurrent pattern. He was a great melodist. There were recurrent patterns of the same phrase. People know immediately, as soon as you start a number, they say, ah, that belongs to Yoselle. They immediately recognize. But that sob in his voice is known, that Rosenblatt sob in his singing, in his music, is known all over the world. They called it the Rosenblatt sob. In fact, when he would be on the road, he used to wear what they call manjetten. Those are hard cuffs, and he used to wear a hard collar, starched collar. And he had something came to his mind, and he didn't have any paper, so he took the little pencil, drew 5 lines, and wrote the notes on the cuffs. And my mother would save these cuffs, which was really something. I mean, I never saw anything do that. He was a very, very simple person. How did he develop his falsetto? You know, the old country in the old days, especially even in Germany, where the also Orthodox synagogue, a cappella, no accompaniment. My father, there were 7 children. He didn't want to wake anyone up. And he had this fantastic ear. He didn't want to go to the piano to play it until 4 o'clock in the morning. So he sat in his room and he was going, or whatever it was that he thought, and then whatever he had to play for a chord. And he began to sing the chord and so forth, or go through it. He didn't want to make my own. He did it so soft in such ways that he developed this fantastic falsetto. I claim that it wasn't a real falsetto because according to Caisari, falsetto would be, and my father would go, instead of, oh, that's breathy. See, you could go from the, go back again and forth. That's a connected tone. And a lot of people say, oh, you're singing falsetto. They don't even know what the falsetto sounds like and means. And my father himself was not a bad composer. Everything that he ever sang, I'm talking about the voice line itself, was fantastic, was unbelievable. And to execute those runs. And there are very few cantors in this world until this day that can even sing because they don't have that range to sing with. He could sing bass, baritone, tenor, and falsetto with an octave on top. You can say the man almost sang 4 octaves, including the falsetto included. He had a tremendous range, and that's what Edison talked about at that particular time. And if it were not for me, all the music of my father would have been lost completely. Fortunately, it took me, a friend of mine, I gave most of my music to a friend of mine to take care of while I went out to the coast to sing in California. The house burnt down with all the music, and 1 book was left over. So I had to do researching and finding all the music that he sang. Of course, I got it through the recordings. And fortunately, I have a thick book with my father's original manuscripts. But those arrangements also had to be changed. I mean, I wanted to make new arrangements because that's what my father asked me to do. But he sure left a tremendous legacy. And this is the biggest thrill that I can have in my life, is to see that his works were not written in vain or rewritten, and that future generations, instead of trying to sing my father's recordings without accompaniment or accompaniments which they write, I wanted to write the accompaniments according to what I said in the beginning. And he was such a great melodist. But not just was he a great melodist, it's the way he put things together. His interpretation was something that was extraordinary. His musicality was extraordinary. His personality was really an extraordinary personality in every single way. Like one cardinal said, the Jewish people don't believe in saints, but I feel that this is a saintly man, and that's the way he spoke of my father. Now, very shortly, he's going to come into a spiral. Now there's your falsetto, the soft tone that he just took now too. But the real thing hasn't started yet, but it'll come. Just get a general idea of his voice. Now, in order to be able to sing the falsetto, it must be without a break in the voice. And you'll hear it as he ascends the scale. I'll check in on it very shortly. See, he's on full voice, which the Italians call the pressure against the chest, based upon tension and resistance. All right, now starts the spiraling. Now watch this. There's the falsetto. Now watch the way he makes those runs. Now there's another thing he's going to do as he comes towards the end of the record. He's going to sing falsetto on top and trill, and then with one run into the bass. From the falsetto through the tenor to the baritone into the bass voice. Watch also now is coming up what you call a major second, how perfect the intonation is. He's not there yet, but he's coming to it very, very shortly. He's still in that pianissimo range. And I claim that's not a falsetto. I claim it's the extension of the pianissimo voice instead, which is very much misunderstood. It's too perfect because there's no air escaping. Now you'll hear that, very shortly you'll hear the major second in his intonation. See how he closes the vowel towards the end. Here comes the second. See, da da dee da da da. Now watch it, he's going to trill and come down. Not yet, here goes. One run.